Okay, hi. So, as you guys know, my name is Heidi Celeghin. I'm an artist from Brazil. So I'm going to be talking about sort of the work that I've done leading up to this project, the most recent work. So in 2011, I did a project called Marks with the Barcelona World Race, which is a 90-day non-stop race, a boat race around the world. And I was working with Team Neutrogena, and so there were two men on each boat, and they couldn't stop, they couldn't leave the boat for 90 days. They just had enough food for that amount of time. So I talked to the two skippers sort of via satellite phone and video conference, and I've learned about what they were doing, because I didn't really know anything about sailing before embarking on this project. And I was really curious to see, like, the idea of two people stuck on a tiny boat for 90 days, and the ocean's huge, and this boat is really small, and it's terrifying, and they're like huge storms, and so I was fascinated with it. I was like, this is really interesting. So I wanted to know all about it. So once I met the skippers, that's when I asked them if I could start this project, and they agreed. And so I was working with them, and so this is one of the paintings I did. So I wanted to capture, because they would send me videos about, so they'd have a camera on the side of the boat, so I'd see like how fast the boat was going, and you see the waves, like the water hitting the camera, and it was really quite terrifying as someone who didn't know much about sailing. So I wanted to capture the speed that they were going at, and I mean it was a race, so they were competing, with 14 other teams. And then I also was thinking about how I can only translate this project as an outsider, and really only the two people in the boat actually know what that experience is like. So anything, whether it's their blog posts or the paintings that I created or whatever the media was writing about them, no matter what, it's always this filtered image, and it's a fictionalization of it. So that's why some of the elements in my picture, it becomes sort of theatrical. So like with this albatross painting that I did, first of all, the albatross has this big character. It's a big character in terms of like literary tradition. So that's what I was pulling from. And they actually saw a lot of albatrosses while they were sailing, and they lost a major component of their boat in a storm. And the only reason why they found it is because they were going to have to get out of the race because the boat was unsailable at that point. And the only reason why they were able to continue the race is because an albatross had landed on it. And so they saw the bird, and they were like, how's the bird floating in the water? And then they realized it was floating on this component that they had lost in the storm. And so that's when I was like, wow, like this literary figure, which is the albatross, in real life does something that's really unexpected and unbelievable. It's like this magical realist moment. So I captured that in this painting where it becomes sort of like a stage. And there's not really a sense of depth in it almost. And then there's a second component to the project. So I did a series of paintings, and then I wrote a prose poem because I really enjoy writing, and I like the narrative. And so my prose poem was about, it basically tracked their whole journey from the minute they left Barcelona to when they arrived back in Barcelona. And so these are all graphite and in pen and ink. They're large drawings, and there's this theory that I really enjoy, which is about image text. It's the combination of text and image, and it becomes a new thing. So it's neither just text, and it's not just image, and it's this entirely novel genre. And so I like how the words, like we are drawn to words, but then the image also catches our attention, and we want to place the words inside that image. And then the way that I've segmented the words, it's almost like they become pictures in themselves. And they give you a hint as to how you should actually be reading the prose poem. So whenever there's a gap or a change in line, that's when you know that you should actually pause in your reading and transition. And so this piece was shown in the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston before I took everything to Barcelona. And then this is one more painting that I did for them. And this is the first of 3 wind paintings. So since sailing be like, why is the only reason why you can sail a sailboat is because there's wind, and so I wanted to capture that, but wind's not something you can see, and so then I was like, oh, if I like throw water and photograph the water as I'm like throwing it, then I can capture this single moment in time, and it mimics, you know, the wind moving the water. I thought that was like fun. And then I did a project most recently, and this is an ongoing project, just painting for conservation with the Houston Zoo. So, coming from Brazil, I've always been really interested in animal conservation, because I grew up in, you know, with the deforestation of the Amazon and like all these concerns, and so now that I'm a professional artist, I was like, how can I actually help the situation, and give back to the planet with what I know how to do, which is painting. So I approached the Houston Zoo and asked them if they'd like me to produce paintings for them, with the animals that they give conservation money for, and create a project and, you know, get the paintings shown, talk about the animals and talk about the Houston Zoo and raise awareness and get people involved who maybe otherwise wouldn't be involved. So they agreed, and so this is Quito, the cheetah, and this was shown in the Houston Zoo in their gala event along with Willie the chimpanzee, and then some other smaller works. And Quito and Willie have been shown in other places since the Houston Zoo event, and Willie's sort of become, through the painting, Willie's sort of become this little miniature celebrity where people, you know, they look at the painting and they know it's Willie and they know that he comes from the Houston Zoo, and the painting's been featured in like Houston's big newspaper. And so then people are drawn to the animal because they look at the painting and it's large and it looks so real and they want to know more about the animal, and they're curious and they want to know about how, you know, how they can actually help with animal conservation. So in that way I felt like I made a difference. And that's an ongoing project which has been paused while I'm here in Singapore, working on suspended flux multiculturalism in Singapore. So one component of the Singapore project, which it's about capturing Singapore's international identity, which I identify with being from another country and having grown up sort of in between cultures and never sort of fitting in. I really love Singapore because I feel like here, even though I'm like not from this region of the world, I actually feel like I fit in because no one asks me questions about, you know, like, why am I doing this? You know, like, you're weird. So that's what really drew me to Singapore. Like, why? How can people all work together and how can it be so, like, you know, harmonious? So one component of this is I'm in the MRT and I'm taking photos of people with my iPhone, and they're candid shots, so it's really, I feel like it captures the person as they are, because they have no idea they're being photographed, they have no idea what's going to happen, you know, that they're going to be sort of shown in an art show. And so these are all digital paintings, and there's going to be sort of a short series of these accompanied by some cityscapes, because I feel like the MRT is this liminal space, so you're there, but it's not really, like, no one's like, oh, the MRT, it's a place, like, I am, like, you know, like, let's all hang out in the MRT, like, no one actually does that, like, the only reason why you go to the MRT is to end up somewhere else, so that's why I felt like I had to include these cityscapes, because otherwise then it's just portraits in the MRT system, but it doesn't really capture that sense of the public transport. And then none of the cityscapes will be populated, because I feel like the show has all the people that would otherwise fill up these spaces. And then the third component of the project is new media painting. So they're a combination of digital paintings and oil paintings, and they'll be suspended from the ceiling. So it changes the perspective, which is in a sense reflecting how, once you're in Singapore, you have to change your perspective, because this is a society where you're not marginalized if you come from a different place. So I've tried to capture people who I know in Singapore who, you know, represent a small demographic of how varied Singapore is. And I like the combination of the very three-dimensional form of the actual portrait with the flatness of the clothes, and then the chaos of the background, which is something I like to explore in portraiture anyways. And then this is sort of a new technique from what I usually do, so it was exciting for me to branch out and explore that. And this is the sneak peek for what is to come at the end of June in my show here.